Hey guys, this is John Nance with Altronic. Today we're going to just talk about the Altronic DE-3000 software, how to connect it, and how to pull a program out of a unit, how to make a slight modification, save it, and dump it back in. So what I've got is I'm connected to a simulator in a lab, or a DE-3000 in a lab, and I'm just going to simply open up my software. And the first screen that tries to pop up is just telling us that this is a version 2X, contains added features to the DE-3000. This was a change that took place in 2014. So if you have a new DE-3000 with a large display on the screen, it's going to be a version 2X. If you have an older DE-3000 with a very small screen window, it's going to be a version 1X. There's more information about that. You can always email me at any time, john.nance@herbigger.com. When we say OK, it takes us to a login screen. This is the most important screen of the whole thing. And this is the way I recommend to open up the software, is only when you're really connected to a DE-3000, because what happens is a lot of us really don't know what COM port, which USB port on our computers, what COM port numbers assigned to it, but we realize that at Altronic. And so what we're doing is we're looking for the DE-3000 as this program opens up. And in this case, we can see that it found it on COM port 3. It automatically selected it as version 2X for me, which is, again, normal for the newer systems. And it says COM port 3 is already selected for us. So we simply just say OK. And it takes us to the main user interface screen. Now there's a lot of things going on here, but in this case what we want to do is we simply want to pull a program out of a unit. And so I'm going to click Configure, and a new window opens up and it gives us several choices. Create a new one, retrieve from a DE-3000, or retrieve from a file, or cancel. So in this case I want to retrieve from a DE-3000. And what happens is it sends an await command. Now the DE-3000 has to be in the manual stop position to pull a program out or to put a program in. And this is going to take about 3 to 4 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and then come back to it once it's finished pulling out the program. Okay, so we finished pulling the program out, and this is what happens. We're actually in the program that we just pulled out of the DE-3000. And we start out at the global variable page. So what I teach guys to do that are especially novice to the DE-3000 environment is don't make any changes yet. First, let's save what you've got. That way, if you make a mistake and you go from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak, you can back up and always go back to the original file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply say save global data, save channel data, save control data, save labels, save labels, save labels. And I'm going to get to the end of the program and it gives me all these choices, but I'm going to just save a copy of this program to a file. Now, here's where a lot of guys get confused. Most of the guys that are messing with this product out in the field, they're mechanics, compressor mechanics. And we're not necessarily Windows extraordinaire type people, but we're going to click Documents. And I've created a folder under my documents called DE-3000 Terminal Programs. And so I'm just simply going to click that. And this is where I'm going to save my program. Now, a lot of guys like to name it the unit number. So I'm just going to use 4 ones for my unit number. And I'm going to do an underscore. And then I'm going to type in ORG. Now, ORG for me stands for original, meaning, hey, this is the first time I've ever connected to this machine. This is how I found the program in the machine. And I'm going to select Save. Now, at this point, I have a copy of the program. I have a copy of the program still in the panel. I have a copy of the program saved to my computer. So I can simply click Exit, or I could select Previous Screen. For this exercise, I'm going to select Exit. And I'm going to open up that folder because I want to show you some things about it. So here's the folder that I saved it to, DE-3000 terminal programs. And I want you to notice something. I have two files in here that have the same name but different extensions. And I want to tell you about this real quick. So the extensions actually mean things. The PG7 file is the file that came out of the display. The T1 TR7 file is the file that came out of the terminal board. The 7 indicates that this is the newer version, the version 2X we talked about, or the DE-3000 Enhanced, some people call it. The enhanced system was released in mid-2014. So any newer system is always going to be a 7 system or version 2X, however you want to call it. These files must remain together. So if you're pulling programs out and you're trying to email them to a coworker or you're on the receiving end, make sure that you have both files because they're not going to open up without being a match set. Now you can't click on them and open them up like you could, a lot of computer documents, like a Word document or something like that. You have to use the software to open them up. Another thing too is if you had an expansion board, the DE-3000 can have a display and one terminal board, 0 to 30 channels, but it can also have an expansion board. That expansion board can be a 15 channel or another 30 channel terminal board. If we had a expansion board on this system, we would see a third file with an extension T2 TR7. So the 2 would indicate that it's an expansion board. Again, these files have to always stay together. So I'm going to close this down and we're going to go back into our software. And this time I'm going to click Configure and retrieve from File. Now it takes us to the last place we were, so we don't have to do any fancy navigation, but just to show you, Documents, Terminal Programs, and here we are. Now, you'll notice something here. We're only seeing the PG7 file. That's okay too. This browser or Explorer window is controlled by our software, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to confuse a person by showing you multiple files, because you may have files for 20, 100 compressor packages or different panels loaded or saved onto your computer. So we're only going to show you the PG7 files, and that's okay. Just make sure that if you do go into the file folder that the files are always kept together. Select Open. And we're right back to the beginning of where we were earlier. So, and we're going to do a quick little modification demonstration, and I'll do more videos that show more things about the software, but this is just a simple version of the software that I want to show you how to basically pull a program out, make a quick modification, and then dump a program back in. So I've already saved the global data. I didn't want to make any changes there, and I'm in the channel section. And what I want to do in this case is I want to go and find a blank channel, because maybe we've had a request to add something. Maybe the customer says, hey, we want to add in a plant ESD to the system. That's a very common one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to channel 11. It's a spare channel. And I'm going to say, hey, it's a normally closed contact channel or a discrete. Normally opened or normally closed, either one's fine. And maybe I'm just going to call this the plant ESD. And it's going to be a Class A. Fault conditions needs to be checked if you want it to shut down. And I'm going to save channel data. That's all I wanted to do in this version. I'm going to save the control data. I'm going to save the labels multiple times, and I'm going to save this to a file. This time I'm going to name it first mod. We're going to save it. So now I have two programs on my computer, and I'm going to send it to the DE-3000. Now we get a little bit of a warning screen to make sure your system's locked out and tagged out. It's always better to be safe than sorry, and make sure that the system can't start cranking, can't open up the fuel or anything like that while we're programming. So if we're locked out and tagged out on everything, we're safe to proceed. Simply click OK. And it's going to ask us one more time, you're about to program a DE-3000, it's safe to do so. Now at this point, be wary. We're fixing to override anything that's in that DE-3000 and load this new program in. So if it's safe to proceed and we're sure we want to proceed, click OK. And the same thing's going to occur. It's going to send a wait command, and we're going to see this computer language kind of blip across the screen for the next 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video while we do this. Okay, so about 3 minutes has passed, and we've completed programming, and we got this nice little pop-up screen that says unit programmed successfully. At this point, we can simply click OK. We can exit out, and we're done. We can turn around and go back and start running our unit and do anything that we want, and that channel will work correctly. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at john.nance@herbiger.com. Have a good day.